Yeah, jump right in
All
there.
right. 2 weeks from yesterday, a lot of people crossed into Mexico. It's spring break. This plane's going to Cozumel, Acapulco. But 11 of us from this epic family got into some cargo vans really early in the morning and drove into Mexico, into this town of Mexicali. We went there with two goals. A couple people in the group went to build a house for a family of 10. And the rest of us went down to help some churches do some outreach into their community by doing some vacation Bible schools. We went in and we got to know the kids. We played with them. We did some dramas. We did some skits, some songs. Just got to know them. While the build team built an absolutely incredible house for this family of 10. And now Christina's going to share some of what God was doing in her life down there.
This was my first time going on the Mexicali trip. And when we crossed over into the border, I was just shocked to see how poor they were, how horrible of a life they had. They were roaming the streets trying to get people to buy something they had, as in like newspaper and odds and ends. And it was really horrible just to see how little they had. But even though they had absolutely nothing, the kids were probably the happiest kids I've ever seen. They just wanted to play with us. They wanted to jump on our backs and wanted us to run around like crazy. They wanted to sing the worship songs. They wanted to just have a good time. They didn't really worry about what they had and how little they had. There was this little boy at the building site. His name was Abraham. When I was there, he kind of became attached to me. I liked him. He was probably about 5, and I rode him around on my back, and I played ball with him, just ran around with him. And when I came to leave, his older sister was holding on to one of the other girls that was in our group, and she was crying. She didn't want us to leave. And he didn't understand why she was crying, so he walked up to one of the translators and asked her, "Why is my sister upset?" And the translator explained that we were leaving, and we had been there for a week, and he started crying. He gave the translator a hug, and he turned around and wanted me to pick him up. And I held him, and then I started crying because I didn't want to leave him. And you never really think about how much of an effect you have on them. You're just playing with them. You're just giving them a piggyback ride. You don't think you're really doing anything, but when it goes to leave and they just don't want to let you go and they want to hold you and they cry and they don't want you to leave, you really realize that you did have some effect on their life. And I set him down and I had to go. I wiped away his tears and told him goodbye. And as I was walking out, I just prayed in my head and I said, "Lord, please do good things in that little boy's life. He's going to serve you when he grows up, and I know he will." We also had a speaker at our campsite for all the Americans who came down to Mexico. His name is Matt. He talked every morning and every night. It's kind of like a church service. And the theme for this year was, "Do not conform." I never really thought that I would even be able to relate to that. I never thought that it would really have an effect on me or even portray to me. But I realized being in high school, and this summer I just went to a new high school. I didn't know anyone. And you just want to fit in. You just want to feel like you're part of everyone else. And so you realize, Matt, just the more you talked, I realized that I try to fit in by like the way I act, the way I talk, the way I don't know, everything I do, I just try to fit in because I want to be like everyone else. And one thing that I really try to fit in is my image. I always try to portray the perfect image and portray that I look like everyone else and I'm just a normal person. And I realized that I don't have to prove myself to anyone. I don't have to give this perfect image to anyone. Because when I have the Lord walking with me, then I don't need anyone's approval. I don't need anyone else to tell me that I'm acceptable as long as I have the Lord walking with me.
They just began a journey. They just said, I'm available for you, God, to stretch me.